Hiya. I taught this in my 12-week course, Happy and Vet Med, and I thought I had actually not talked about this way on the podcast. And so I want to give you this class for free. It's very short. It's one of the videos that I give my participants, and then they get also some theory and they get some worksheets to work on. But this teaching in itself, I think, is really valuable and it might be a light bulb moment for you. So I hope you enjoy this class. Today, we're going to talk about perfectionism and control. I was watching a documentary about Victoria Beckham that just come out on Netflix, and I caught myself looking at her, and she just has this like perfect skinny body, and I caught myself thinking, oh God, if I just looked like her, looked perfect, I think I would feel a lot happier. And then David offers her like a wrapped up chocolate, and she says, I haven't touched chocolate since 1998. Why would I start today? And I thought, okay, maybe I wouldn't want a body if I have to sacrifice that. But our brains have this tendency to think that if I was just perfect, if I could just do everything perfect, if I just looked perfect, if everything around me were doing things perfectly, then we can finally be happy. And there is this tendency to go towards perfectionism, especially as vets, because perfectionism also means being in control. If I can run a consult perfectly from, people enter to the end of the consult and I don't make any mistakes and I know everything that I'm talking about, I know exactly what's happening to the animal, then I am in control of the situation. I'm not leaving anything up to chance. And for example, just the fact that we ask people about, well, what's wrong with your pet? And we are like really listening and we're not anticipating what we want to say, but we really like step back and we just sit there and listen. That we can't really do properly when we are perfectionists because that means letting go of the control. I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know exactly what they want. I don't know exactly what their interpretation or perspective of this pet situation is. And if I really am calm and grounded and I listen deeply and I don't anticipate what I'm going to answer, or my brain isn't going, oh, could be this and that, and this is what I have to ask them next, and oh, this means that, or now I can jump to conclusions. If we don't do that, and if we're completely open to whatever people are telling us, that means I have to let go of the control. And that is really scary for perfectionists. And that is why a lot of us also hate consults because we're not in control. And this really affects us because we are actually never in control of anything. If once you hit a certain age, you know this by default because there will have been so many things that you wanted to control that ended up being out of your control. I mean, so many people, for example, giving birth, and we have this idea it's going to be like with a doula, and then I'm going to be in the water, and then my midwife is going to be like this hippie thing, and then you end up in like super sterile environment and having a C-section. Or maybe you had planned your C-section to be like this special thing, and you're gonna have like it's like you're just gonna be like gassed and having epidural, not know anything about it. It's just gonna be like you're not gonna know anything, and then you have a baby, and then you go into labor, and there's no time to do a C-section. You have to do a natural one, right? So when we're talking bodies, biology, medicine, anything like this, healthcare, like nothing is ever really fully in our control. And you also notice when we have this ideal of, for example, if only the owners did everything perfect, right? If they just fed the animal the perfect food and they had the pet with the perfect weight and they had like insurance up to 20 grand and they just came in time and if they just called us and asked about questions, if they were just perfect, then this would go perfectly. And this is again coming back to wanting to control how other people's are, what they do, what they don't do. And the more perfectionist you are, the more you're going to feel like things are out of control, that things are not going right. And this will leave you in a really, really high state of anxiety at all times because your brain will constantly want to control what you do and what other people do, and we just can't, right? We can't even control what we do ourselves because like walking down the stairs, you might just trip and fall down and break an arm. Hey, that was the beautiful wedding pictures out the window, right? So I just want you to really understand that perfectionism is not a good thing because it stresses us out more than it does good. And you might think, well, perfectionism is not supposed, like, we know it's not good. No, but we think that the more we strive toward perfectionism, the better vets we're going to be. For example, you might think that if you're in an ideal world, were a perfect vet and you knew 100% everything, then you would be a much better vet. And then you could save animals that you wouldn't be able to save otherwise. If you knew everything, and then this animal that whose owner has been to Africa and been stung by this mosquito and came back, and then they gave this disease to the pet like 6 months later, and you just happen to know exactly about this mystical tropical disease, then you could save that pet. No? So we have a lot of us have a true belief that if I just know everything, which would be perfect, right? If I was perfect because I know everything and I have practiced everything, then I can save so many more animals. But of course, this is not possible. You can never know everything. You can never be perfect. But this striving for perfectionism will actually make you a worse vet. Like I just explained, this will put you in a place where you don't actually listen to what the owners say. You're actually not on the same page as them because you want to control the situation. You want the consult to be perfect and you want to come across as perfect as well. And for that you have to let go of vulnerability. You can't be vulnerable and go, what did you say? I don't even know. What is that? What did you feed them? I don't know those treats. Or they say something that throws you, like something where the symptoms just don't add up. And now because you're not in control, you can't tell them, oh, this is probably anal glands, this is probably pancreatitis, this is probably this. Let me now examine them. You don't have the perfect idea of what you think it's going to be before you examine the animal. And that means that now you feel vulnerable because now you actually might not know what's going on. You have to let go of that control. Why? You can't be in control if you don't know. And perfectionism affects us in so many aspects, no? When I started out talking about Victoria Beckham and me wanting to be skinny as her, like, first of all, I'm not even built like her, so that would be very difficult. But also, like, having to let go of chocolate for the rest of my life, she's in a profession that's completely different and she does it for the reasons she does it, no? But this strive to look like her would really put me in a miserable place, and it still does sometimes because I wish I didn't have so much belly, and now in perimenopause, I'm telling you, it's no joke. Um, and I wish I had less belly because I would look perfect. Because in my brain thinks that what's on the cover of magazines, which now a lot of the models are AI created. I didn't know if you knew that. Um, and if I was just perfect like them, then I would be happier. And it makes no sense. Like, why would I be happier if I was skinnier? Like, that doesn't make sense, right? But my subconscious tends to do that. And also, like, we tend to look at our relationships and think, like, oh, if just my husband, he was just better, if he was more perfect, then I would be happier, which is impossible because nope. First of all, we know nobody's perfect, but even if he was perfect, he would annoy you because he's perfect, because he's like, oh, why can't you be more human? Right? So this strive for perfection will always leave us in an unhappy place because we can never get there. We can never gain 100% control over people. Then we feel unsatisfied and we feel out of control and we feel really, really anxious because we have this limiting belief. We have this underlying current belief that we should be able to do this. We should be able to control the situation and we should be perfect. So what happens when we then have proof that we are not perfect? We didn't act perfectly. Well, I have that all the time because working in ER, I mean, I make mistakes and I think the animals have got something and then they don't. Or I have a feeling that, oh, these owners are going to come in and they I think they're going to be insured, or I've misunderstood or whatever. And I'm like, oh, let's go in and do a consult. And then I'm like, oh, we could do this and that. And they're like, we have no money, we put it to sleep, or we have no money, what are you going to do? So I get like this imperfectionism thrown at me again and again and again. And because I accept it now and I don't expect myself being perfect, I'm also incredibly open for feedback from my nurses. So if my calculations are wrong when I put a doses down, or if I say, oh, we should do this, and my nurses go like, well, are you sure about this? Because I think I would probably start with an X-ray instead, for example. It doesn't throw me because I don't have this false belief that I can be perfect, I am absolutely okay with people giving me feedback, obviously in a nice, constructive way. Like if somebody says something negative, then I can for sure jump and being defensive straight away. But if I want to be perfect at all times, it's going to be really, really hard for me to take feedback, which then, funnily enough, is going to make me less perfect long term, because I don't take feedback, so I can't actually become better because I'm not willing to take it in and change my ways so I can mold myself, quote unquote, more perfect. So the more you strive toward perfectionism, the more you want to be perfect, the more you truly believe that you should be more perfect and that closer to perfect exists, the worse that you're going to be and the worst time you are going to have. You're going to feel out of control and you're going to feel incredibly anxious and you're going to feel like the world is against you and the universe is against you because things never go the way you want to. You're going to feel like you're not enough. You're going to feel like you have to study more. You're never going to study enough. And you're always going to feel bad because you're not doing enough. And this doesn't mean that now you have to be a lazy bitch. You can still study. You can still practice more. You can still ask for feedback. You can still like strive towards become a better vet and a better human. But striving towards perfectionism will for sure and always make you a worse person and a worse vet if you let it take over so much that you now really feel bad because you cannot be in control. You're unwilling to be vulnerable and you're unwilling to do new things sometimes because you realize that you can't be in control and you're not going to be perfect at it. I see that as well with people like coach or vets I talk to. You know, they don't want to do something because they know they're not going to do it perfectly and then they just don't want to do it. Like, imagine if kids had that, right? We would never learn how to walk. We would never talk. We would never ride a bicycle. And then when we're young, we will never learn to drive a car. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons as well. Like when we're a bit older and we then want to take our driver's license, it's very hard for us because we want to be perfect at it already. Because there's so many things we have learned that we are now good at that is really difficult to step down or step back and be really bad at something, even especially if the driving teacher is going to be younger than us, right? Like taking that, like realizing we're so imperfect at this age. So I really want you to think about that, where you might be putting a lot of pressure on yourself to be perfect, even if you don't think so, because we all know that perfect is impossible, right? You can't be a perfect human or a perfect vet. So I know that intellectually and consciously you understand this, but you are probably not aware of how much your subconscious is pushing for this unattainable perfectionism. I hope that was helpful. And I hope you got a bit of an insight into how I teach as well when I do my classes. And just to let you know that I actually have had really good with my results with the vets. Like I feel they're really happy and they're having a lot of aha moments in the course. And I think a big part of it is because I am teaching the theory and then we are coaching on top of that. And up to now, when I do my one-on-one coaching, I just start coaching with you guys, and I've just kind of assumed that you kind of had absorbed a lot of my teachings, but I see that is not the case. So when you now sign up for my one-on-one coaching, I'm gonna give you all the material from this course. So like the episode you just heard today, plus the worksheets, plus the theory, you're gonna get access to the 12-week teachings, and you can then use that as you wish. So we can see what patterns you need most working on, like time management, anxiety, not being enough, perfectionism, boundaries, whatever it is you need most. So you can just pick that material out of the course first, and then we'll work on that. And then when we got past that, we see what next thing do you want to work on. So you're gonna have a lot of theory that you can then work on in between the coaching sessions we have one-on-one, right? So no better moment than now to sign up for my one-on-one coaching. Come to a free consult session and I can meet you, you can meet me, and we can talk about what's going on for you. I love the consultations because I get to know more people around the world and I hear about more and more like how we all actually have more or less the same kind of problems. And I love to dig into your brains and then look at what patterns you have and show you, well, these are the three main things that are probably gonna go on for you. And I'll send you like a history, like a plan for you to work on. And then if you want to keep working with me, then you're going to get access to these 12 weeks of course material. And then we start coaching. So almost every week we'll meet up and just like go to your brain and just pick it and help you get another perspective and turn everything upside down for you so you can start feeling better straight away. That is one of my main things when I start coaching is that I want you to feel better as quick as possible. So that is the main thing. And then we do that with whatever tools available, whatever we're going to do it. And sometimes just feeling heard, feeling you're not alone and realizing you're not fucking crazy is a big help as well. Can I'll be like, no, I have been like you and I coach other people like you. You're not crazy. And this is why you're doing this to yourself. It can be a big help. So sign up to a free consult now. The link to an appointment is in the show notes. This month, I have a lot of time because I turned my shifts around. So I had more time this month for a friend that's coming to visit me. And so you have lots of opportunities now to book a time for a consult, which is free for now. And you will have a lot of insight and a lot of perspective just from that one consult. And then you can decide whether you want to work with me with the added bonus of all the material from this 12-week course. It was great to speak to you. Have a great week. Bye.